5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
This is About Space, America's return to space, with news and information on our U.S. space program. Is your host of About Space, David Denal.
Welcome and thanks for joining me today. I have an exciting news update. A new space plane will soon be taking to flight.
Let's talk about the dream of safe, sustainable, comfortable, and frequent human spaceflight to and from low Earth orbit. Imagine a kind of space taxi service. That is what the Sierra Space Corporation is chasing with their next generation concept for the future of reusable spaceplanes. They call it the Dream Chaser. It's been 12 years now since the Space Shuttle made its final return from orbit and glided in for one last runway landing, marking the end of an era. The Shuttle wasn't the only spaceplane to fly, but they have been few and far between over the years. Now, in 2023, the Dream Chaser is preparing for its first launch, with the hope that Sierra Space can return the spaceplane to its glory days as the preferred method of transport for getting people into orbit and back home again.
And I'll share more on the Dream Chaser next as America and the world is listening to About Space today.
Mardi Gras is home.
We've all waited for a long time for this day, and so we are thrilled and excited to welcome Mardi Gras finally to her home here in Port Canaveral. We've invested billions of dollars to reduce our environmental impact, and so we're very excited at Carnival Cruise Line that this ship, Mardi Gras, is the first ship in North America to bring this technology.
Book your fun cruise on Carnival's Mardi Gras today. Call D&D Cruise and Tours at 877-747-8631. That's 877-747-8631. And come see the Caribbean. Welcome back. About Space Today first reported on the Dream Chaser last year, and Sierra Space is now preparing for launch with its own unique design.
The original concept was for a vehicle that would be used exclusively for crewed transport to low Earth orbit. By 2013, the first prototype completed a successful glide and landing test. Basically, they just lifted it up very high with a helicopter and dropped it. But in spite of that success, Dream Chaser did not make the cut for NASA's Commercial Crew Program in 2014. Instead, they awarded contracts to the Boeing Starliner and SpaceX Crew Dragon to fly future astronauts to the International Space Station. And this likely has a lot to do with NASA wanting to play it safe with their first commercial crewed spaceflight. Capsules are the tried and true, safest possible way to get a person back home from orbit. There has never been a fatality on a capsule return, and we've been doing this regularly since the early 1960s. Space planes are more complicated, and therefore they are less safe, more points of failure. In February 2003, the Space Shuttle Columbia broke apart while re-entering the Earth's atmosphere, killing all 7 passengers. Now, that's not to say that space planes can't be made safe, or at least well within any reasonable definition of safe, when we're talking about human spaceflight, which will always be dangerous for obvious reasons. It's just that a spaceplane is a little more dangerous and therefore requires more care. I'll go out on a limb here and say that any spaceplane would be a lot safer than how SpaceX lands their Starship. In response to the setback from NASA, the designers of the Dream Chaser made a pivot and modified the vehicle to serve dual function as both a crew transport and an uncrewed supply aircraft. When in 2016, Dream Chaser was awarded a contract through NASA's Commercial Resupply Services 2 program. Dream Chaser would be cleared to run 6 resupply missions to the ISS. So that's where we are at right now. The current Dream Chaser design is set to fly autonomously as a cargo ship for the space station, and the cargo capacity of the vehicle is going to be supported by an external module called the Shooting Star. That's the thing with the solar panels attached to the back of the plane. This is how the Dream Chaser will berth to the ISS, and the shooting star will act as a pass-through between the ship and the station. The cool thing about the shooting star, and the reason for its name, is that it serves a dual purpose. Not only does this module provide space for supplies to the ISS, it also functions as a garbage disposal. So prior to the Dream Chaser departing the station, the crew can dump all of their waste into the shooting star. Then the module and spaceplane depart together and turn back towards the Earth. Once they're on course, the Dream Chaser will release the shooting star, which is unshielded, so it will just burn up on re-entry and turn to dust, while the Dream Chaser uses its heat shield to make it safely back into the atmosphere and glide in for a soft landing. And of course, the advantage of a gliding landing is that the ship can touch down just about anywhere in the world with very minimal overhead. The people just hop out and they're good to go. The cost associated with having to go and fish a Dragon capsule out of the ocean with a bunch of huge boats and cranes and helicopters is gigantic, and it's obviously very susceptible to ocean weather conditions. With Dream Chaser, they can land at the old Shuttle runway at Kennedy Space Center. They can also use Spaceport America in the New Mexico desert. They could even land Dream Chaser in England at Spaceport Cornwall. Those are all licensed for orbital landings, and in theory, there should be dozens of potential landing strips all over the world. As we speak, the first orbital candidate for the Dream Chaser, named Tenacity, is being prepared for launch. The hope is to watch this bird fly in the summer of 2023, so that's coming up fast.
And plans were just announced that they would join in a space station venture.
The good news is that there is a very bright future awaiting the Dream Chaser. Sierra Space has partnered with Blue Origin on the design and construction of a brand new space station, the Orbital Reef. This is a vision of the next generation of human life in space, a combination of business park and luxury hotel experience in low Earth orbit. Not only will Sierra be supplying their life inflatable habitat modules to the Orbital Reef, their Dream Chaser will also serve as the primary transport vehicle to deliver both people and cargo to the station. This is where the Dream Chaser gets to finally realize that concept as a space taxi, a comfortable, sustainable, and safe vehicle to transport all kinds of different people to and from orbit. The highest altitudes won't be restricted to NASA astronauts anymore. Now, I'm not saying that any regular schlubs like you and me are going to space, though we can keep up the hope. I'm pulling for you, but we can say that the future of human spaceflight will be vastly more open and accessible than ever before, and vehicles like the Dream Chaser are going to make that possible. So it's a pretty damn cool spaceship.
A new shuttle that will take you to a new out-of-this-world holiday in space. Check out our Facebook page, aboutspace.today, and for launches and landings, and invite your family and friends to listen weekly. And join Dawn Meyer, Space Coast News Editor, this Friday for America in Space. And to all our listeners around the globe and here in the U.S., thanks for joining me. I'm David Denault, and this has been About Space Today.